My name is Jacqueline Ashthorne, and I was born into a world of emerald hills and whispered secrets. Ashthorne Hall, my childhood home, was no ordinary estate. Its towers clawed at the sky like bone fingers, its walls draped in ivy so thick it seemed to strangle the stone. But inside it breathed warmth. My father, Lord Cedric, filled its halls with laughter and the clinking of charity, coins for farmers, books for village schools, medicine for the sick. My mother, Lady Isolde, was his equal in grace but sharper in wit. She spent hours in the conservatory, tending rare plants from distant lands. Some whispered she brewed more than tea in that glass-walled sanctuary. Victor, my uncle, was the storm cloud in our summer. Younger than father by a decade, he carried resentment like a second shadow. While father hosted balls, Victor skulked in the library, flipping through ledgers and muttering about wasted fortunes. His eyes, the cold grey of winter fog, followed me even then. The fire began on the night of my 18th birthday. A celebration meant to dazzle, a feast in the gardens, a quartet playing beneath paper lanterns. But as I danced, smoke coiled from the north wing. Flakes of ash fell like black snow. By dawn, my parents were gone, their bodies found clasped together in the ruins. Victor wept at the funeral, a masterful performance. Then came the accusations. I had stolen my mother's sapphire tiara. I had conspired with bandits. A maid, her face bruised and trembling, swore she'd seen me pocket the jewels. The tiara was found in my room, tucked under a floorboard I'd never lifted. I fled that night, clutching only my mother's silver hairpin, a gift she'd slipped into my hand hours before the fire. "Trust no one," she'd whispered. For 10 years, I wore my shame like a second skin. I scrubbed floors in dockside taverns, my hands raw, my hair dyed black with soot. In Liverpool, I met Maggie, a pickpocket with a heart of tarnished gold. She taught me to read a man's worth by his cufflinks and to vanish into crowds like smoke. "The world's a stage, love," she'd say. "Wear enough masks, and even you'll forget your face." But I never forgot. I dreamt of Ashthorne's halls, of Victor's smirk, of the orphans in the village, ragged children who'd once waved to me from the gates. When Maggie died in a brawl over a stolen watch, I buried her in a pauper's grave and turned my feet toward home. Ashthorne Hall loomed darker now, its gardens choked with weeds. I took a scullery maid's name, Clara, and a face to match, hunched, sallow, invisible. Victor, bloated on power and port wine, paraded through the halls with a new mistress each week. He never noticed the maid who lingered too long in the gallery, polishing my mother's portrait until her eyes seemed to follow him. The study was my obsession. Victor retreated there after midnight, his laughter slithering under the door. One storm-slicked night, I picked the lock. The desk drawer held a ledger of bribes, deeds to stolen land, and my mother's journal. Its pages smelled of lavender and bitter almond. Codes swirled beside sketches of the estate, a map of the chapel floor, symbols tied to moon phases. And on the first page, beware the serpent. Trust the thorn, our family crest, a rose with a bloodied stem. Marcel Renard lived in the gatehouse, a crumbling husk on the estate's edge. Once he'd been a lion of the courtroom. Now he was a spectre, drowning in gin and regret. "Your uncle framed me," he spat, when I shoved the journal into his hands. "I discovered the true will, the one naming you heir. He paid off judges, forged documents, ruined me. But the journal reignited him. Together we deciphered my mother's clues. The coordinates led to the chapel, where a rose carved into the altar marked the hiding place. Under a crescent moon, we pried up the stone. The safe inside held the will and a letter. My dearest Jacqueline, if you read this, Victor has betrayed us. He poisoned me. Arsenic in my tea. I pretended weakness, buying time to hide the truth. Forgive me. Avenge us. My knees buckled. Marcel caught me, his grip steady. We'll make him pay. Victor cornered us in the chapel, his pistol gleaming. Drop the will, he hissed, or I'll burn that orphanage you love so dearly. The orphans. My orphans. For months I'd crept to the village at dusk, leaving baskets of bread and my mother's old storybooks. A girl named Lottie had clung to my skirts once, calling me Angel. Choose, Victor snarled. I chose. From my apron, I drew the brass pocket watch I'd stolen from his study, hollowed out, its gears replaced with a wax cylinder. I wound it. His voice spilled into the chapel's silence. Burn the north wing. Let the rats die with them. A confession, recorded days prior as he'd boasted to a collaborator. Victor lunged. Marcel tackled him. And the constables, alerted by a street urchin I'd paid with a silver hairpin, stormed in. The courtroom seethed with nobility and peasants alike. I stood in my mother's sapphire comb and a borrowed black gown, the journal in my hands. Victor's lawyer sneered, a maid's fantasy. But then came the valet, Hobbs, a skeletal man who'd served my father. Lord Victor paid me to buy the arsenic, he rasped. Said her ladyship's headaches inconvenienced him. Gasps, uproar. Victor's mistress, Lady Beatrice, even turned on him, revealing hidden debts. When the judge pronounced him guilty, Victor howled like a beast. You'll never be rid of me. Ashthorne Hall was mine, but its halls echoed with ghosts. I wandered the conservatory where my mother's orchids had rotted to dust. In the study, I found a hidden compartment letters between Victor and a London crime lord, plotting to sell the orphans into factories. That night, I signed the deeds. The orphans inherited Ashthorne. We turned its dungeon into a pantry, its ballroom into a school. Lottie, now bold and bright, declared herself Princess of the East Tower. Victor rots in a cell, raving about serpents in his soup. Years later, Marcel found me in the gardens. His hands trembled as he gave me a letter, brittle with age. To Marcel, my mother had written, you are not just my brother, but my conscience. Protect Jacqueline. She is your blood. I stared at him, the gaunt cheeks, the eyes that mirrored hers. All this time, I whispered. He smiled. You have her fire. I write this now in Ashthorne's library, Lottie asleep by the fire. The world thinks me a philanthropist, an eccentric spinster. They don't see the ledger under my desk, names of corrupt lords, blackmail letters, a network of maids and clerks who whisper secrets. Victor was right. I'll never be rid of him. His poison runs in my veins, but I'll wield it. For every orphan, every outcast, every girl sold for a title, the serpent never dies, but neither does the thorn.
All right, so we've got something a little different for you today. It's It's a deep dive. Yeah, a deep dive into a world of secrets, whispered secrets, actually. And we're going to be drawing on, excerpts from this book, The Forgotten Heir. It sounds like, one of those like kind of classic, mysteries, but there's a lot more to it than meets the eye, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The way it starts off, with Jacqueline Ashthorne herself describing her childhood, it really pulls you in, like you're right there with her.
Yeah, she talks about like, my name is Jacqueline Ashthorne, and I was born into a world of emerald hills and whispered secrets. Right from the start, it's like, okay, this is going to be interesting.
And it almost feels like a fairy tale, at
Right.
least at first.
Yeah.
She describes Ashthorne Hall, this grand estate, her father, Lord Cedric, this kind of like benevolent figure,
Yeah.
and her mother, Lady Isolde.
Yeah, Lady Sold. A little bit mysterious, maybe, with her collection of like rare plants and stuff. It's almost like too perfect, You start to wonder, what's the catch?
Right, right. And that's where her Uncle Victor comes in. It's like, even in this idyllic world, there's this like shadow lurking, a storm cloud in their summer, is how she puts it.
Yeah, he's always like making these snide comments about how the family fortune's being wasted and, just generally being kind of like a downer. What do you think? Why do you think why do they introduce this element of like tension so early on?
Well, I think it's partly to make us question that whole facade of happiness,
Yeah.
right? To show us that even in a place like Ashthorne Hall, things aren't always what they seem.
Yeah, it's like foreshadowing,
Yeah.
like hinting that something bad's going to happen.
Exactly. And then, bam, it does. Her 18th birthday.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be this huge celebration, but then that fire breaks out in the North Wing. It's just like tragedy strikes out of nowhere.
Talk about a turn of events. 1 minute, it's all like joy and celebration, and the next, it's devastation. It's like her whole world changes overnight.
Yeah, and that's just the beginning of her troubles, right? I mean, think about what happens next. Her own uncle, Victor, accuses her of all things, stealing.
The sapphire tiara.
Right, the sapphire tiara. And not only that, but like conspiring with bandits. It's just so outlandish.
You got to wonder, like, what kind of person does that to their own niece? What does that tell us about human nature, about the lengths people will go to get what they want?
Well, I think it says a lot about the destructive power of greed and ambition, right?
Yeah.
It shows how easily someone can be blinded by those things.
And the way he sets her up, it's so calculated. The bruised maid, the planted tiara, it's like he had it all planned out in advance.
He did. And so Jacqueline is forced to flee Ashthorne Hall. She has nothing but a silver hairpin and her mother's last words, "Trust no one."
Yeah, that image of her running away in the night with just that hairpin, it's so powerful.
It's a symbol of everything she's lost, right?
Yeah.
Her family, her home, her innocence.
So that's where our deep dive really begins. We're going to follow Jacqueline's journey from that point of utter loss and betrayal through the next decade where she's basically living in the shadows trying to survive, and then finally to her quest for justice to uncover the truth about what really happened to her parents.
It's an incredible story of resilience. I mean, think about it. She goes from this life of privilege to basically nothing. She has to learn how to fend for herself in a completely different world.
Yeah, she ends up in Liverpool, the docks.
Yeah.
Tough place. And that's where she meets Maggie.
Ah, Maggie. The pickpocket with a heart of tarnished gold.
What a character. She becomes like a mentor to Jacqueline, right? Teaching her how to survive on the streets, picking pockets, blending in, things they don't teach you at Ashthorne Hall.
Right, right. Maggie has this whole philosophy like the world's a stage and everyone's wearing a mask. She teaches Jacqueline how to read people, how to see through those masks.
Read a man's worth by his cufflinks. That was one of her sayings.
Exactly. But even with all that, Jacqueline never forgets what happened to her. She never forgets Ashthorne.
The memory of Victor's betrayal, it's like a fire that keeps burning inside her. And then Maggie dies.
And that seems to be a turning point, right? Like, it's the final push she needs to go back and confront her past.
Yeah, she decides to return to Ashthorne, but not as Jacqueline. She goes back as Clara, a scullery maid. I mean, talk about bold.
Risky, too. She's going back to the very place where she was betrayed. To the lion's den, so to speak.
And her focus right from the start is on Victor's study. She knows that's where he keeps his secrets.
It's a smart move. She understands that knowledge is power, and sure enough, she finds something, her mother's journal.
Hidden away. And it's not just any journal. It's full of codes and sketches and this cryptic message on the first page. Beware the serpent, trust the thorn.
The serpent, the thorn. It's like a riddle, a clue.
And the family crest, the Ashthorne crest, it's a thorn. So she starts thinking, what does this all mean?
She has to find someone who can help her decipher it.
And that's how she ends up at the gatehouse.
where she finds Marcel Renard.
The family lawyer, or at least he used to be. Now he's basically a recluse. But he knows about the true will.
The one that Victor tried to suppress.
Right, the one that names Jacqueline as the rightful heir. Victor framed Marcel to get him out of the way.
It shows just how far Victor was willing to go.
And now Marcel and Jacqueline, they team up. They start working together to piece together the clues.
And the journal leads them to the chapel, of all places.
Yeah, you wouldn't think there'd be secrets hidden in a chapel, but that's where Lady Isolde was clever.
She hid a safe beneath the altar, and inside, there it is. The true will. And a letter from Lady Isolde.
A letter that reveals everything. How Victor poisoned her, how he set fire to the North Wing, and she begs Jacqueline, avenge us.
Avenge us. Powerful words.
And right at that moment, guess who shows up?
Victor.
With a gun. He threatens the local orphanage, knowing that Jacqueline cares about the children there. He's trying to blackmail her into silence.
Typical Victor. Always resorting to threats. But Jacqueline, she's not backing down.
Nope. Remember that silver hairpin she's been carrying all these years? Well, it's not just a hairpin. It's also a hollowed-out pocket watch. And inside, she's hidden a wax cylinder recording, a recording of Victor confessing everything.
Brilliant. She turns his own words against him.
And just in time, the constables arrive. It's like something out of a movie.
And so Victor is arrested.
Hmm.
And the trial begins. It's tense. Jacqueline, she's finally able to tell her story.
She even wears her mother's comb. It's like a symbol of her reclaiming her identity. And then Hobbs, the valet, he testifies. He confirms that Victor bought the arsenic.
That seals it. The evidence is overwhelming.
Guilty. Victor is found guilty, but even then, he shouts, "You'll never be rid of me." It's chilling.
It's like a curse, a promise that he'll be back to haunt her.
And you know what? He's kind of right. Because even though Victor's in prison, Jacqueline discovers that he had this whole other scheme going on, a plan to sell the orphans.
It's despicable. But it's also a turning point for Jacqueline. She decides to do something radical. She makes the orphans the new heirs of Ashthorne Hall.
Turns the estate into a sanctuary for them. The dungeon becomes a pantry, the ballroom, a school. It's a complete transformation.
It's like she's taking back Ashthorne, reclaiming it for good. And then there's another twist. Remember Marcel? Well, it turns out he's not just a lawyer.
He's Jacqueline's brother. Her half-brother. Lady Isolde, she revealed it in a letter.
It's like all these years she's had family. She just didn't know it.
And now, fast forward to the present. Jacqueline Ashthorne, she's seen as this philanthropist. Maybe a little eccentric, but behind that facade, she's still fighting. She has this whole network working to expose injustice, to protect the vulnerable.
The serpent and the thorn, they've become her symbols.
So that's Jacqueline Ashthorne's story. A story of betrayal, resilience, and ultimately justice. It makes you think about the impact of our actions, about the secrets we keep, and about the unexpected ways that change can happen. What other hidden ledgers might be out there waiting to be uncovered?